Trump announced a 2-week ceasefire with Iran yesterday, and the internet immediately erupted with lies about what it actually means. In this video, I'm going to walk through 3 of those biggest falsehoods that I've been seeing, and more importantly, lay out the facts so you can cut through the noise. And at the end, we'll discuss what may become the most strategically brilliant thing that Trump has ever done for America. Just before 7 p.m. last night, Trump released a statement saying that based on conversations with Pakistani leaders, he would agree to a 2-week ceasefire with Iran, on the condition that Iran agrees to the complete, immediate, and safe opening of the Strait of Hormuz. He went on to say that he had received a 10-point proposal from Iran, which he believes is a workable basis for negotiations. Which leads us to the first lie. People, and apparently CNN, are claiming that Trump agreed to Iran's 10-point plan. There are actually multiple falsehoods wrapped up in this one, the first and most obvious being that we do not know exactly what is included in Iran's 10-point plan. There have been multiple different versions floating around the internet, even differing ones released by Iranian sources. That said, just so I can walk through the analysis, I'm going to use a version that I found on The National, which says that it's summarizing the 10-point plan according to Iran's National Security Council. Here's what The National is reporting. The Strait of Hormuz to be reopened under the coordination of Iranian armed forces, establishment of a secure transit protocol in the Strait of Hormuz, the war against all components of Iran's axis of resistance to end, U.S. forces to withdraw from all bases in the Middle East, full payment of compensation to Iran, lifting of all primary sanctions, lifting of all secondary sanctions, termination of all UN Security Council resolutions against Iran, termination of all IAEA resolutions on Iran's nuclear program, and release of all frozen assets and properties abroad. Now, use your brain for a second. Does that sound like something that Trump would actually agree to? I tell you to think long and hard about it, but it's so obvious that even my not even 2-year-old nephew could answer it. No, Trump would not agree to that. Let's start with this red flag: the demand to lift all IAEA resolutions on Iran's nuclear program. The most recent resolution is a demand that Iran provide access and information to the nuclear sites damaged in Midnight Hammer. Is Trump going to let Iran have full, unfettered access to those sites with zero oversight? Absolutely not. He's been saying for decades that Iran cannot get a nuclear weapon, and this would just give them all the leeway they need to start rebuilding their nuclear program. Now, this is me making a prediction, but I'd venture to guess that the workable basis that Trump talked about, if we're even assuming that this version of the plan is real, is limited to a few key points: the Strait of Hormuz being reopened under Iranian coordination, sanctions being lifted after some time, and Iranian assets being unfrozen. Why those? Because they let oil keep flowing through the strait and give the new Iranian leadership a path to start rebuilding their country. Everything else in that list would be a complete non-starter for Trump, and anyone telling you that he agreed to the whole thing is just trying to convince you that he's capitulating to terrorists, which he is not. Which brings us to the next lie: that the United States lost this war. And this one is just insane. As Pete Hegseth said at his press conference earlier today, Iran's military has been totally decimated. Their navy is gone, their air force is gone, their top leadership is dead. There's no historical measure you can use to argue that Iran is winning this war. They had to go so far down the list of leaders that they reportedly appointed a man who was in a coma as their next supreme leader. That's how badly the United States has broken them. Furthermore, it is extremely obvious that Iran's leadership structure is broken. Hours after the ceasefire was announced, Iran was still firing missiles at Israel and even at Kuwait. Those attacks seem to have finally stopped by now, but the fact that they happened at all tells me that this is a fractured military and a fractured government. Iran has what they call a mosaic defense doctrine, which essentially says that if the IRGC's top leadership is destroyed, lower-level units become autonomous and can make their own military decisions. Iran employed this mosaic defense in this war weeks ago, but the ceasefire didn't immediately stop the hostilities. Some of these autonomous groups kept firing long after the ceasefire went into effect, which tells me that they're fractured and that some of them don't respect whoever actually issued the ceasefire order. What follows is likely a power struggle among the different factions within the IRGC, a power struggle between the IRGC and the Iranian mullahs, and a power struggle between the IRGC and an unconscious supreme leader. Either way, whoever ends up in charge of Iran will be a new person, one who watched all the top brass get killed, and I'm sure that Trump will do whatever is necessary to make sure that the person that he actually negotiated with remains in power, which would almost certainly give us a more friendly leader in Iran. So, no, we did not lose this war. The third lie is that we didn't achieve any of our objectives in this war. I'm seeing people sarcastically claim that all we got was the Strait of Hormuz opening. And that's sarcastic, obviously, because the strait was open before the war started, and now it's just open again, with Iran charging tolls. We'll get to the tolls in a bit, but let's make something clear right away. There is no final peace agreement yet. This is only a 2-week ceasefire. Trump will use this time to test Iran's willingness to actually come to terms. Before this war even started, Trump was trying to negotiate with Iran to get an end to their nuclear program. They wouldn't budge, so he attacked. If they still won't budge after the ceasefire, then those 2 weeks will end with Trump going back in and absolutely obliterating them. The war is not over. These 2 weeks are for Trump to see just how much the Iranian regime has really changed. He's claimed that there's been a regime change, and in a sense, that's true, but we don't yet know how much they'll actually agree to. If they agree to abandon their nuclear program, then this is a total win for Trump. It has always been the number one goal: prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. If they end up abandoning their program and can never build a bomb again, then this is a complete and total victory. If they refuse, the ceasefire ends with more bombs being dropped. There's only one way to end this war, and it's Iran abandoning its nuclear program. And once they do that, it is a win for Trump. Now, back to the Strait of Hormuz. Iran reportedly wants to charge $2 million per ship going through the strait. And while that number will almost certainly come down, Trump has signaled openness to a joint venture with Iran to charge tolls on ships passing through. I'm sure some people will say that the strait was already open, so this just puts us in a worse position. But think for a moment. Trump has repeatedly said that he likes to get something tangible out of a war, and this gives him the chance to make the US money as a result of the conflict. It's not so different from Venezuela, where we're holding the money in escrow, choosing when and how it gets released, while American companies can now profit from selling the crude oil. Now, in Iran, there may be a fee on oil passing through the strait that the US can profit from as well. Trump has said before that the worst thing about the Iraq war was that the US didn't even get the oil, and he doesn't want anybody to say the same about this war. He wants there to be real, measurable profit from it, and this joint venture toll system is exactly how he could deliver that. I'm sure our European and Asian allies will be upset about this, because if it happens, it would be the first time that they actually have to pay a fee to pass through the strait. But if you're Trump, you don't care what our European allies think. Only about 2% of our oil comes through the strait. Europe gets far more of its oil from there. And when Trump asked them to help open the strait through force, they refused. And he took that as a slight against him and against the United States. So he's not going to do them any favors. In his view, this is a chance to profit from the strait while possibly forcing our so-called European allies to buy more oil from the US so they don't have to pay the fee to cross the strait. Either way, the United States comes out ahead. It's a win-win, so you shouldn't be upset about it. Trump is truly running on America First logic here, and if this goes through, it could turn into the best possible scenario monetarily for the United States. Trump is meeting with NATO Chief Mark Rutte today at the White House, and I'm sure that this will come up. Rutte has been more openly supportive of the Iran war than many of the individual NATO members, so it's possible that he could push for some kind of deal with Trump or try to nudge him toward a more European-friendly arrangement with Iran. But whatever they talk about, especially on the oil side, Trump is certainly going to make sure that America comes out on top. The war is not over. The ceasefire is simply a test. The only acceptable outcome that Trump has ever wanted is the same: no Iranian nuclear weapon. If Iran capitulates on that, it's a total victory. If they don't, the bombs start falling again. Trump has been successful in everything he's tried so far in foreign policy, and there's no reason to think he won't be successful here. He's earned the benefit of the doubt, and he's earned the right to ask you to look at the facts instead of believing the lies that you're hearing on the internet. Subscribe and like the video to get more from me. I'm trying to build a brand based on honest, reasonable takes and not the performative outrage you get from so many online. If that resonates with you, subscribe for me and head to my Substack to get new releases emailed directly to you. With that, I'll see you next time. Thank you.